President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has traveled to France in his new Airbus A330 aircraft, a safer replacement to the 19-year-old Boeing 737 previously used for presidential travel. The president's France trip has been made possible by Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Limited's goodwill gesture to release one of the Nigerian president's seized aircraft. The Chinese firm had obtained a court order to seize the jets belonging to the Nigerian government after the Ogun State government allegedly failed to meet its obligations in a 2016 business deal.
While the firm agreed to release one plane, it is holding on to the other two, as well as other Nigerian properties secured through a British court order, pending resolution of the matter. This development comes as the presidency faces criticism for purchasing a new presidential jet amidst the economic challenges. Joining us is Assistant Secretary General, Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, Olumide Ohunayo, who joins us shortly. But it's very interesting to see that this conversation is one that has been on for the longest time. Before we even get to the presidential jet, the Zhongshan Fucheng Industrial Investment Limited, which is a Chinese company, the argument as to their involvement in all of this and Ogun State, it is said, some of the perspectives that we've seen about it would be that is a state allowed to go into international deals like that without the approval of the federal government? One of the things that Patutomi said was that he did go to president, he wasn't president then, Bola Ahmed Tinubu at the time, when he was the APC political leader, to say that this is a challenge that we're going through, this is what is happening, they're not allowing me to execute this, but there was nothing he did about it. And the only reason I mentioned Patutomi is because Patutomi only spoke about his experience when this came to light. But this, many have said it's an embarrassment, even though it's not an embarrassment that was caused because of President Bola Tinubu's administration, because the contract predated him. It was from the time of, way before him, from the Buhari era, if I recall. But it's basically looking at the role that the state government has to play in all of this. Should the federal government then have to bear the brunt of this? And unfortunately, what message are we sending to international investors? That Nigeria is not a safe place? Is that what we're sending to them, that we can bail out of contracts and nothing will be done about it? The fact that they had to seize a national national aircraft to be able to send across a message, it's very embarrassing. Not just that, seized about 2 of Nigeria's properties in the UK. It's really, really an embarrassment.
Absolutely. And I mean, it depends on how this case goes, right? If there is eventually now the need for a full repayment or compensation to the Chinese firm, depends on how the courts, eventually rule. That money obviously will be gotten from Ogun State's, allocations.
Really? So that's another thing. Who's going to do the payment? Is it going to be Ogun State? Is it going to be the federal government? I know that he had a $70 million arbitration award that was given to the company from the Nigerian government. Yes. And nothing has been done about it. In fact, this was given years ago, and then now they're trying to do a stay of that arbitration award. They could have done something about this a long time ago. They didn't until it became a national embarrassment. So who exactly is going to do the payment?
I mean, somebody has to pay, except we have a complete reversal of the court ruling, that, of course, doesn't award them any damages, $70 million or not. If there isn't anything like that, then somebody would have to pay. And, this is as a result of some level of mismanagement by former Governor Ibikunle Amosun. I mean,
and whether or not they pay the arbitration award, it's at the end of the day, what reputation has he said about Nigeria? But let's move the conversation away from the failed deal and the jet that has been released. We do have 2 still left with them. We're joined this morning by the Assistant Secretary General, Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, Olumide Ohunayo. Good morning, Mr. Ohunayo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get your thoughts on, how this plays out on the international scene. Presidential jet, 3 were seized from what we hear. 1 has been released, there are 2 still held back. What message are we sending across to the international community?
Let me start from where you stopped. And I think I need to commend your team there. That's about the first time I'm hearing since this saga started who's going to pay for this. And I'm happy you ended it before coming to me. And I think Governor Ibikunle Amosun should be with the DSS right now, rather than jumping on the internet and responding to Professor Tomi and others. Coming to your question, I think once again we have thrown ourselves into the into the international fora as another country that does not stick to agreements. And when you don't stick to agreement, you tend to drive investors away, embarrass yourself. No matter what effort you put in on domestic front, your agreements must be sacrosanct. That's been a major problem in the aviation industry, and I think this again has also woken us up to see that we need to have our agreements to be sacrosanct and empower an independent judiciary. Because the Chinese man refused to come to any court in Nigeria because he was not sure of getting a fair judgment. And even if he gets a judgment, implementation might be difficult, might take years. That's why he had to run out of the country. And in running out now, we have been badly embarrassed. And I think this is another lesson for us to tidy up our sense of agreement, that agreements between government agencies and government, any arm of government, with anybody, whether domestic or international, you do not toy with it. From conception to implementation, to signing and implementation, you must ensure you pay for a good lawyer to look at it, to ensure that every line corresponds and become favorable so you don't get your fingers burnt. That's what we have found ourselves today. And now we are looking for arbiters now who have also refused. All the arbiters, if I've seen them on the reports, all the arbiters have asked, have said Ogun State was guilty and they need to pay. And that's the situation we have found ourselves. They're going after properties in London, they're going after money, monies in England, and also now they're going for aircrafts in Paris.
From this issue, there's a lot of points that must be made, and we should not ignore when we have, these conversations. So we'll probably come back to it if we have time. But, I want us to talk now about the presidential jet in particular. It was one of the things that made the story even bigger, with the fact that the presidency then eventually had to own up that they had actually purchased, this new jet. So, I want your thoughts on how necessary it was to purchase this new presidential jet for Mr. President, which, of course, is currently in France with him on their work stay. Do you agree that it was entirely important? The previous jets were just not, fixable or workable, and it was, we had no other choice but to spend however amount, of money we spent in buying this one.
Let me make a correction there. That the president only accepted that they had a new they got a new aircraft when this aircraft was seized. Before then, it was back and forth. There was no confirmation. Now, again, the French government released the Airbus, the French-made aircraft, and the other two American-made aircraft, the BBJ and the Bombardier, are the ones that they left for the Chinese to hold on to. We never knew those 3 aircrafts were there. Those two, the other 2 are meant to be sold, while the Airbus is the one that was bought and released for the president to use France, and the aircraft president in France took the president of France yesterday. But you see, going to your question, is that a problem that is setting us at the moment? Do we actually need a presidential jet now? We have so many financial and economic problems that is besetting the nation, that also led to some protests. And I thought that the government, when we begin to ask Nigerians to cut their quota, cut their size, if you ask us to tighten our belt, it should start from the presidency. We must see that in you. The timing of this aircraft, the type of aircraft is not beneficial to Nigeria. The aircraft that we are talking about is going to be 15 years old next month. This aircraft is just going to be 15 years old next month. And the one they have sold is 19-year-old. So are you saying that in the next 4 years, you are going to sell this aircraft that you have bought? If you are selling a 19-year-old aircraft, and a 19-year-old aircraft in the presidential fleet, if you look at the number of runs and operations at rotations it has, it is about a 5-year-old aircraft or even a 4-year-old aircraft in a commercial fleet. Where the commercial fleet flies every day, almost every 2-3 hours. The presidential aircraft goes parallel on flights maybe once or twice a month. So what was wrong? If the maintenance, the air fleet, the presidential air fleet team cannot manage a 19-year-old business jet that was bought by the President Obasanjo when he was in office, how would they manage a more expensive, a bigger A330? If BPJ is so expensive, how are you going to manage this one will be more, which is bigger and is more expensive to maintain? So sincerely, I see the next government coming in, selling the aircraft immediately. But the problem is they're going to sell at a loss because I don't see anybody coming to pick that aircraft apart from any of the rich Arab guys. What are we doing with the big A330? Do you want to hold a party on board? It's not for the president and his team. Are you going to hold it? IMF conference at the aircraft? I wonder why that's the kind of choice.
Just to
And
further buttress,
bought an A340, brand new, the biggest aircraft in Airbus fleet as a dead. And today that aircraft is flying follow on the tarmac there in a dead area. We have commonly called graveyard of aircraft. That's what the aircraft is, a brand new aircraft. Nobody's going to buy it. Nobody's willing to buy it.
Sorry, who did you say brought a brand new A340?
Arik Ed. Just before they collapsed, and that aircraft led to their problems. That aircraft is lying down at the airport today. Nobody's buying it. And they will have to butcher that aircraft. An aircraft is less than 10 years old. And now you have gone there to pick an A330, a big aircraft, for Mr. President and who? It's for the House of Assembly to have meetings on board. I think the aircraft is too big. It's more expensive than the BBJ that is selling. So I don't know, how did they come about that decision? And how did they come about the decision of selling the BBJ? Or how did they come about the decision that the aircraft was no more serviceable, that it was a safety risk? Who gave that report?
Okay, I mean, just to further buttress what you have said.
The BBJ have not managed the Airbus 330. And you can be sure that you have not been told the expense that's coming to the government, because you will now have to train all the crew of conversion. You have to train the engineer. You have to train the cabin crew.
All right.
All coming at the cost to the federal government.
I would like to further buttress, what you had said about wondering why they couldn't maintain a 19-year-old jet. The checks by Daily Trust indicates that the Boeing 747, the Air Force One used by the U.S. president, the most powerful president in the world, is 34 years old, and it has served no fewer than 6 presidents, including the incumbent, Joe Biden. So, but just to then talk about the new jet that has been purchased, reports have it that it's not a new jet, it's a jet that is about 15 years old. What do you make of that? You have confirmed the information as to the age of the new jet, and what does that then mean?
Well, I just said that now. I said if you are selling you're selling the one you have that is 19-year-old, and you are buying the one that is 15-year-old. So invariably, in 4 years' time, as you are leaving office, you are going to sell it. Again, if you cannot maintain a smaller aircraft, the BBJ, which is smaller than the A330, if you cannot maintain, if the process and procedure in place in presidential air fleet can do not maintain and keep that BBJ that is acclaimed to be a very excellent and performing aircraft, how would you not keep an A330 that is much bigger than the BBJ? And how did you come about the advice to move from the smaller BBJ to a bigger A330 that's more expensive to maintain in this days of high fuel cost, in this days of lack of forex? How did you come about putting such money in that aircraft? I don't want to go into the figures that was used, because I cannot prove it. But that aircraft, a brand new one, is about $213 billion.
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't know how much they bought the PLO.
Yeah, very, very, important questions. We did have a conversation yesterday with someone, and of course, his views are that, Nigerians should not play with the safety and security of our president. And so whatever it takes to ensure that we have a functional and, of course, a jet or a presidential jet, rather, that is, 100% safe for flying, we must pay. It doesn't matter what it would cost the country. So do you agree with that? And, what also do you think is the fate of the other 2 jets, seeing the legal proceedings that may occur going forward?
Well, if those aircraft were not of value, the Chinese company wouldn't have gone for an injunction seizing them. And those aircraft, if they're not flyable, you would not have put them for sale. You'd have just butchered them, and asked someone to buy it as scrap right here in Nigeria without taking it out of the country. Now, for you to now list for those aircraft to be listed in the US for being available for purchase shows that those aircraft are still flyable. What I see here is ego. It's ego. And like you said, well, do we really need a presidential fleet? Do we need those number of aircraft? The British Prime Minister does not have any aircraft in his fleet. Doesn't have any aircraft in his fleet. He says flying a PA or internal aircraft. Do we need all those aircraft? You go and make people to borrow you money and you are go flying down with a big aircraft, and those are borrowing those aircraft. And guess what? I'm just going to give you those funds at a good on a good term and condition. Come on, our parties are not right. Sincerely, with respect to this aircraft, our parties are not right. And when was this approved? When was this aircraft approved? When was the money approved? Did it pass through the Senate? We never heard of anything. The only thing we heard was when they took those documents to the Senate committee, and they told us that the aircraft in the fleet of the presidency are not risk to the president's life and all that things. Who gave them that report? Who assessed those aircraft? And aircraft is to the level of the president is now put on sale in the US. So is the US so the new owner wants to die?
I mean, would you even say that yeah, would you argue? Yeah, kindly hold on. Would you argue that even the lack of clarity with the purchasing, of this new aircraft, how much money it was really, bought for, and of course, if there was a bidding process, if anybody also got kickbacks from, the process, what, part of Nigeria's budget was expended in buying it, are these things enough questions that maybe, in a sane society would be impeachable offenses for mismanaging Nigeria's funds?
Well, you have said it all. You have said it all. I think you have said it all because we never saw the process. We never saw the bidding. It was never presented at the Senate or the House of Rep for them to approve such expense. And now today we are saying it belongs to the federal government. So who approved it? When was it presented? The only time we ever heard anything about it was when they discredited the aircraft in the field of the presidency. And when you discredit such aircraft in a fleet, when you say none of the aircraft is flyable, then that's an indictment on the presidential fleet maintenance and crew. And I think that an audit should have started with that, rather than go straight to buy another brand of aircraft that require total training and overhauling of the equipment storage and training of the crew and engineers and all team handling the presidential air fleet. And you cannot just go buy those aircraft without having all those training in place. Invariably, this is premeditated, and the president had started even before they came to the house to tell us that the president's life is in danger. And how was the president's life in danger? How was the president's life in danger?
All right. We have to wait and see exactly how this will turn out. We have 2 jets that are still yet to be released, and one wonders about what the fate will be if we do have to pay the arbitration award to the tune of $70 million. What that will do to a country that is grappling with making ends meet in this day and age. And we are glad that you joined us. Thank you very much, Mr. Ohunayo, for joining us. And we hope that we can have some positive news regarding this in the nearest future, even though I'm not as hopeful. But let's see how it goes.